Welcome to the DMF. I'm Justin Younts. This is part two.
I
Right.
thought that was in some ways.
Right.
And he's activist. And
Right.
he says in film, I'm not an opera. How did you come aboard?
Well, there's a lot of concentric circles in my life.
Yeah.
And this is another one of those times where I was living in Rome, as I said, with my husband in 2012, and my friend and landlady, Roberta Guida de Bagno, said, my girlfriend, Paola, has a son. He's 21. He's in film school, and we think he's talented, but would you take a look at his film? So I said, sure. So I looked at his film and I said, no, wait a minute. No, he's not just talented. This guy's like an artist and he's amazing. So I helped him finish it. We got it into some festivals, it won some awards. And then in 2013, when I was filming in Milan, I said to Maxime Derevenko, you've got to come up and you've got to be the cameraman up here. We need you. He said, okay. So he came up. He was a cameraman for us on every shoot, actually, 3 shoots.
Oh, wow.
And the DP on 2 of them. And then Jacek Laska came in and was our big cinematographer. He was a cinematographer for Robert Altman, so it's really Polish school of photography. Unbelievable. Beautiful.
Wow. 3
Yeah.
sisters and,
Yeah, so that was amazing. So Maxime came up and was our cinematographer for 2 other shoots. And so then he went back to Rome, and where he lived, and he became the film and video head for the Rome Opera House. So he was shooting the directors and doing interviews with Sofia Coppola and other directors who were directing the operas there. And he said, I really want to do something with Ai Weiwei. So Mark, he says, very funny story. He sent out a lot of emails, letters to production houses and other places to see if anybody would be interested. And Marta Zaccarone from Incepted Film, she's my producing partner on this. She said, this sounds great. Let's meet. And then she brought on Miguel Kogo, who's a co-writer. And Miguel did Netflix The Red Doors. He wrote The Red Doors with some other writers. He's a great writer. And he teaches out of Bologna. He's a great guy. And so they wrote what they thought would be an interesting thing. They knew that Ai Weiwei was doing Turandot. But it's interesting because that was years later when I was doing Viva Verdi. Yeah. I'm sure the Rome Opera House had no intentions or no ideas about bringing Ai Weiwei in to do Turandot. It was years later that happened. So these things, and it's interesting that both films are coming out now. That's the other thing that's, life happens. Films happen at their own timing, right? So, excuse me. So, Ai Weiwei and Maxime's lives kind of resonated because Maxime's father, Vladimir Derevenko, was a Bolshoi ballet dancer out of Russia. And he fell in love with an Italian woman, was going to marry him, and he was exiled because of that. Because for someone of a high stature, you only stay with your Russians, so not marrying an Italian. So he left. And so when Maxime was speaking to Ai Weiwei about philosophy and life and how he would approach this, their lives really kind of resonated because Ai Weiwei was exiled with his father. His father was a poet, and he was exiled to Siberia when Ai Weiwei was a young child. So he understood the barrenness of life, how life could be with no art, with no music, with nothing there. So they kind of bonded over this. And Ai Weiwei brought him in, and there was some very intimate moments where Ai Weiwei explains his process, and you can see his creative process, his collaboration with other artists. And this is interesting because the opera only had 8 performances, 8 days of performances. That's it.
That's it.
Right. And also, it closed. It started in 2020. The COVID started. Maxime was only filming a couple of days. They stopped. The Rome Opera House closed, which has never happened before in 200 years of war and other things.
Yeah, that was so sad hearing that closed.
Right.
because of the big clothes.
And Justin, there were 600 people working on this opera. Those are a lot of lives to put on hold, but obviously,
Wow.
you know,
Well, no one
pandemics.
knew. No one knew it was going to go. We all
Exactly.
thought it was like the end of the world.
Right.
It was,
And Maxime and Marta, I wasn't on board yet, but they didn't know, is this going to continue? Or, you know, will we be able to pick up? Is the opera house ever going to open again? Will the world, you know, stop to exist? So and then in 2022, they came back. They had short rehearsal. They had Oksana Levnev from Ukraine was
Yeah.
the first woman conductor.
yeah.
And she came on board and brought such beauty and emotion. And, you know, the baton was her soft weapon. And the musicians were her warriors for
Yeah.
peace. It's
And
so
at that
beautiful.
time, it was
Right.
was breaking out.
Exactly.
Right. All these
Right then.
parallels.
Exactly then. I think the opera opened the 22nd. I think the war maybe was, you know, right then at that time, 2022. So they had these 8 days of performance and incredible reviews. As you can see, the costumes were just stunning, the set designs, the projection, all of Ai Weiwei. But you could see him working with these artists to create these, and what a beautiful collaboration it was. And the artisans in Italy, like in Europe, and often in Hollywood too, they're passed down. The artists passed down generation to generation. So it's interesting to see what a serious undertaking it is. It's heart and soul and legacies, their families' legacies right there. So we get to see that. And then Michael Fabiano, the great tenor who played Caliph, and how eloquent he is. So the film is riddled with philosophy and with incredible music and beautiful visuals to look at.
Well,
I think it's stunning.
I love it. But that one was my favorite because so I was
Yeah,
seeing all these
right.
I'll say tongue and
Sure.
everything, and had to go through
Yes.
and like this sign you've got to there's no Western clothing against
Oh,
China
yeah.
and
Yeah.
because it's not like here
You have
where
to
you
be
can
kidnapped and
that's
left
in there
for
too.
81 days. So yeah, he doesn't talk about that, but you can
Yeah.
imagine, how Ai Weiwei suffered.
Yeah, what it is,
No.
just with
Right.
he and then
Right.
there was but it's such
Right.
a beautiful considered
It is. It is.
piece.
It's up for Oscar consideration, and it's yes, I think it's important. Both films are very meaningful.
Yes.
Different lens. We have a different lens on different things, but one is aging. Aging population and how to take care of them, and the other one really is about social justice. And Ai Weiwei calls this an opera for peace. I think it's his manifesto of hope and an opera for peace. And hopefully we'll give people a different way of looking at the world and ideas for change.
Yeah.
And I think we're all activists I brought on Andy Cohen as a producer, and then Andy brought on Julian Lennon, another activist, and then I brought on my friend Marcy Polier as executive producer. All activists, all understood how meaningful this could be to put a spotlight on the world through art, through opera, through another medium.
Just
Thank
the way
you.
there at the end and
Exactly.
everything and
Yeah.
I felt so both
Oh,
films because
that's
it
so
just
nice.
this because
Yeah,
we need to forward
that's right.
and I feel like it's just
Take it for
consuming it's
granted, right?
entertainment and it's
Yeah,
like but it's on things
right.
they're gonna be saying and it just
Yeah,
I mean that we're living in
meaningful.
and we
Mm,
SVA
yeah,
talk a little
yeah.
bit about that.
Yeah, so I was working, I think I was working at Orion then. I'm trying to remember when that was, but yeah, so I was teaching at the School of Visual Arts, and I said, there's all these great short films. And so I went to all the studios and I said, I want to create something. I need some money to give these students incentives and awards for their work. And they were, okay, sure, here's a couple $1,000. And then I went to Ari and some other of the products that are used. Cameras and things. And Kodak, I think, gave us some funds or something, and so I put together this thing called the Dusty Awards, and it was like at least 25, 26, 27 years ago. And I think they were still doing it until a few years ago. I think the pandemic maybe interfered, but Reeves was the head there then. And we put this together, and I just thought it was an important part to get these voices out and to encourage students to keep going and to give them a little bit of a leg up. They got a first look deal. Whoever won got a first look deal with New Line, I think it was. New Line was, a little bit like Orion at the time. Those
that Lionsgate were kind of like
exactly. I love those companies. They take more risks in a way they can. They're able to.
And we're losing a lot.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just like
being absorbed.
The more we have, the more voice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
yes, and Neon. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where they're
yeah. Concordia is another one too. These small jewels. Yeah. They do good documentaries and other things. Yes, it's Davis Guggenheim.
And then there's the one that was called
Searchlight 2 was a little bit of that. Yeah, Searchlight 2. Yeah, amazing films. Yeah, I feel lucky to have been a part of that. And when I was at Universal, Jim Katz started Universal Classics, which was the beginning of the classics. So it was Universal Classics, and then it went to Orion Classics with Michael and Tom, and then they created Sony Classics. So, but it started at Universal really with Jim Katz.
That's how Sony Classics,
right.
That's another studio we didn't mention.
Exactly.
Great studio.
Right. So Jim is he's kind of been the godfather of both my movies, because he's my go-to guy when I go, okay, I'm having an issue here. Goes, okay, this is what you do. He's been great. Going along and raising funds and juggling so many things. It takes in 2 films sometimes at the same time. The last couple of years, it's been both films. It's a lot. And I'm used to having a big staff. When I was at the studios, I know what to do, but you need a big staff in order to make those things happen. So in a smaller staff, you really have to hustle and you have to be more creative. And I've always have some interns and some other people working with me, but it's a little frustrating sometimes because I know everything that has to be done, because I've done it for decades. And there are strategies, smart strategies that can help move you a little further, a little faster. And so it's good. I've been feel very lucky that I've been able to bring my life work and passion with my decades long work in the film industry, in the entertainment industry, to both these films. I feel very fortunate and blessed and lucky and happy. Happy to have done it, happy to be at this place, after all these years. So it's a good thing. Oh yeah, I'm always teaching. I always love, I love students have great ideas. They're fearless, and that's what I love more than anything is fearlessness.
You bring it out of them. I can tell.
That's right.
You're a teacher that would be like, oh,
that's right.
Awesome. You're just going to stick.
Oh yeah, it's really funny. Like I remember when I was living in Rome, and Maxime and I would have these deep conversations for hours and hours, and Paola and Roberta were my contemporaries. So they would say, what do you talk about? And I say, a million things. Are you kidding me? It is so exciting because especially in Europe, it happens here too, but especially in Europe, they're educated in the arts, so they can sing any aria, they can quote any poet. Honestly, in philosophy-wise, they're beyond. It's an exciting, very rich thing to be with anybody. I don't care how old they are. If they're 5 years old and they can, play a piano and talk about something, I'm interested. I'm curious. I want to learn. I want to know. I want to exchange. And that exchange is what is exciting for me in life.
In some ways, because I can't tell you, artists, they can't tell you, is this a Machiavellian plan to us under rule, or is
You're
it,
so right.
you know,
Yes, you're
it's
right.
scary, you know?
But the saddest part is that that's such a rich life
Yeah,
to understand art and to have as part of your life and to question things because of it.
yeah,
You know, you see an opera and it affects you, the the arias and the vision, the costumes. You're immersed in these worlds that
yeah.
change your consciousness. And in fact, I know I talk about this once in a while because I'm a little obsessed about it because
Yeah.
Verdi is one of my heroes. And he wrote in 432 hertz, and opera at the time was in 440. So what he wrote in, it's called Verdi's A,
Yeah.
and it's the sound of the Amen and the Om, and it's the universal sound, that 432 hertz. And so when you hear his operas and his music, it kind of elevates your consciousness because it's this universal sound that hits you at a different place.
Yeah,
So
it was like 500. You know,
yeah,
get in, especially in
yes,
this day and time. I keep
totally.
saying that, but I don't know how else to say it. They're coming down the
Yeah,
pike now,
we
not
need some leaders,
later. Yeah,
some
new
leaders.
leaders
Yeah,
with new
from your
ideas.
generation
You
that
know,
they're going to really step forward and take charge and lead us in another direction where
yeah,
there's equality, where there's
yes,
social justice, where there's the arts are
yeah,
appreciated, all those things, and artists are appreciated instead of banned.
yeah. That's
And
my fear right now is we're losing
yeah,
egalitarian. A
yeah,
lot of people don't know. And we almost have a
mm,
cheat sheet of, and we seem to
yeah,
never want to learn from this part in history.
exactly.
Look at this stick. That's why I'm saying reading I think is the thing that we're losing. We need to read as much as possible. But sorry, that's me on the soapbox.
I agree with you 100%. So
Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.